Hey, what's your purpose?
Well, I guess simplistically, the first thing that comes to my head is I guess to be born, to grow up, reproduce, and then I guess die. I mean, that's gotta be the answer, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, but I think that's the only answer that I've heard which like makes sense to me.
Oh yeah? Nothing else?
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading all kinds of philosophy books recently, totally getting some things while others just kind of blow over my head.
Right.
And I haven't heard any other like compelling arguments for like what our purpose is.
Well, at least like none that are satisfactory, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when I was younger, I really thought that there was more. And I was just missing like a couple pieces. But now I realize that no one knows fucking anything. And if anyone says they know anything, they want to sell you something. I didn't make that up. I heard it somewhere else.
Yeah,
I thought
Wesley.
it was really funny and true.
It was Wesley from Princess Bride.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
I love that movie.
It's so good.
Yes.
It is so good.
I mean, even now I'll watch it and laugh hysterically. The whole movie.
I'm right there with you, man.
So you've been reading a bunch of philosophy, huh?
Yeah, a lot.
Just looking for the point of everything, the big why.
If it's out there, I think it'd be nice to know.
So, I always thought that question has this like ever malleable answer that changes based on the underlying goals of like an individual person.
Yeah, okay.
Like, for instance, the point of life for a comedian would theoretically be to make people laugh. And there are other reasons why they would want that. But let's just say that that's what the goal is, that the reason for why would change for each of us. We're all different. And so, of course, not every answer is going to be to make people laugh. It might not even be the right answer for individual comedians,
Okay. Yeah, I follow you.
And so then why would individual philosophers have an answer to your own question when their why will inevitably, I think, be different?
I get what you're saying, but it's not like we can just overlook these other people's thoughts and writings.
Well, no, not at all. I'm just saying that it's not surprising that you don't resonate with them the way that you think you should, because again, you aren't them. It would be more surprising from a critical thinking standpoint if you agreed wholeheartedly with their hypothesis.
That's a lame answer, man. So lame, man.
Well, do you want the answer?
Yeah, I think so.
Why? Give me a real reason why.
If I'm thinking critically about why I want the answer, it's probably because without the answer, any action you take doesn't really feel like aligned to anything. Like there's no compass and there's no map. So
yeah.
Like what if there is an answer and you've just been wrong the whole time?
That's a fair response, I think. Fair point.
I mean, for instance, what if all this time I've been spending this energy on things that don't matter? I mean, I would feel sad at that wasted time.
I think you mean guilty.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, listen, man, I think the great falsehood of our time as conscious and thought-bearing primates is that we desire meaning in literally everything. All of that exists must have an answer. And I do regard that as more good than bad, but I'll get back to that later.
Okay.
And I think we become susceptible to a lot of tricks and exploitation when we desperately search for answers. Our hunt for the truth leads us to an answer regardless of its factual nature. And many people, having been exhausted from a world without answers, cling on to toxic truths.
Why
right?
do I have this feeling that you're gonna bring up religion again?
That's definitely a big one because it provides an answer, a community, and a set of guidelines. I mean, what else could you want, right?
Well, most people are still critical even after seeing those answers, though.
Yeah, well, right. I don't think it's a coincidence that more people adopt atheism, or at least an agnostic point of view, now that they know so much knowledge is available to consume. And this is my overarching point. I think a person with a function and purpose spends less time questioning and more time experiencing.
Yeah, like that puppet analogy you like so much.
Yes, a puppet is happy if it loves its strings.
Right. That's a good one.
And I think that the best way to say it, I think our relationship with dogs is the most compelling form of interaction with the grand question.
Dogs.
Yeah, hear me out. But dogs live in captivity for much longer than in the wild. Just kind of like, It's not an overarching thing, but dogs tend to do that. I don't think it's a surprise, but there it is. And also dogs that assume the alpha position, even though alpha and beta theory has kind of been disproven at this point.
Okay.
I think it's still interesting that dogs that are in leadership roles tend to die younger than those in a follower type role.
Really?
Yes, that's why it's important that your dog knows what position it holds in the household, because if your dog is the person making decisions most of the time, it will be riddled with anxiety because in its eyes, if it makes a wrong decision, it will cost potentially its life and more importantly, the life of the pack members.
So you're saying that by being a follower rather than a leader, you will on average live longer?
Well, I think that's a blanket statement that I think could easily be picked apart. But my assumption, based on how I see things, that tends to be what I noticed.
And then you're translating that for people?
Yes, to the bigger point. You search for answers to why. Because if you act on the wrong answer, there are consequences. You will have wasted time, your life in pursuit of something that is false, right? So you constantly look for the answer and have noticed other people who you believe have the wrong answer. You don't agree with their points for whatever reason, but that all leads to your seemingly endless search for the one true answer. You're constantly in a state of leadership, constantly in an anxious mindset, sussing out every piece of food. Is it poisonous? Is it edible? Every single cave, is it empty? Is there a bear hibernating? And that way of existence is taxing. And most of all, it's not sustainable for the long term.
But it's also necessary. It's how we found out the cave was empty, and if it was, we had a place to hide from the rain. If we didn't walk over the mountains, we wouldn't have found an untouched oasis. Like, it's part of who we are, that leadership role.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but also if you don't take a second to just sit and be content and look, you might miss it all together.
Yeah.
And you want to know the answer so bad. I don't think you realize that I already told you it.
What, the reproduction thing?
Yeah, our purpose is to be born, to grow, to reproduce, and then to die. It applies to everyone. It was bestowed upon us by an unseen and ever-present entity we call evolution. And if we don't participate, our species dies off.
It feels finite. You know?
Well, I mean, that's life, bud. I mean, have fun while it lasts. If you want, make some of your own reasons or don't. I think the main point that I want to get across is that if you're looking for something else to place purpose on you, then you're always going to be disappointed. I think the answer to your question shouldn't be to find out what the purpose is, but rather ask yourself what you want it to be. Because when you take responsibility for your own purpose, then the answer you find will always be right, even if the answer changes down the line, which it inevitably will.
That is really insightful. Where did you hear that?
Probably some old TV show I watched when I was like still developing my prefrontal cortex.
Well, now you're a dick again. Okay.
What can I say? It's my purpose.
You're fucking stupid.